Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, wherever you're listening. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast, and the tripod is back, and there's a beard coming on the Madman. Ryan's growing a full beard. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bearded Bandits are here. After long awaiting, we are here. We got plenty to talk about. Madman, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Coach. Great to see you. It feels like it's been a while since all three of us have done a show, such is life the last couple of weeks. But hard to believe we're, getting around, 7 weeks till the season starts. I mean, we're at about a, 50-day mark just about here, 48, 50 days. So long-awaited season begins. Excited about that, and always a pleasure to be talking Trojan ball with you two.
Mr. Ryan Dyrud, how are you doing?
Doing good. What's up, fellas? Yeah, it's been a while with all of us. So that's the summer life, right? So happy to be on. And yeah, can't wait to, it's been fun doing all this recruiting stuff. I don't think we've done it in years past as deep as we've gone. So it's been fun, but I'm excited to soon here be able to just talk about this current team and actual football. That'll be nice. So, which we'll get to do a little bit of that today, but we'll also have some recruiting news today. So it'll be good.
Yep. So a big list came out. It's kind of funny that the timing of this list after
perfect timing.
Yeah, like it just like proves the point. The name not to be spoken anymore. It came out with his stupid quote. And so the Dodd list came out. The Dodd list is the Dodd watch list. I should say the Dodd watch list. We are getting to the time of watch list. So I feel like we're going to be talking about a lot of watch lists. Hopefully talk about the Thorpe, the O'Brien, all these watch lists coming out. First watch list that we have to talk about is the Dodd watch list for the top coaches of the year. And our man himself, the one that everybody talked about in the comments, LR Riley. Lincoln Riley made the Dodd watch list. And I find it interesting that he made the watch list because it's like you always ask yourself, is he doing enough? And according to other coaches and people on this panel, he's doing enough and he's doing a very good job. I think this is a good benchmark for him, right? How far does he stay? How long does he stay on the list? Does he become a finalist? I think what he does this season determines it. I think should be, if it was me, it'd be a good motivating factor in a way of like, let's see how long I can stay on here. Let's see if I can become a finalist. Let it become a goal to be coach of the year for the Dodd list, right? So, I mean, as of right now, as of this offseason, it looks like all directions are pointing in the right way. He has some slips, but the slips weren't major, right? Recruiting thing, depending on how you look at it. Like I said, I look at it this time of year when they commit, we know the commitment's for real. March is just leverage, guys, when you really look at it. But I think this, from what we know of Lincoln Riley, of his 2 off seasons, this is night and day. He's going in the right direction. He's backing up his words. And now it's starting to show, but there's only one way to prove it, and that's by what happens in the progress he puts on the field and how the players play. Hopefully that works, but I think this is perfect. This is good timing, and I'm excited for him. And like I said last show, I've been the biggest supporter of Lincoln Riley this offseason. I hope everything continues to move in the right direction. Hope everything continues to sway, and it gives us a good season. Jamal, what do you think about Riley and his Dodd's watch list?
Yeah, Coach, and just to sort of level set, perhaps, is the Dodd list is preseason, kind of Coach of the Year award list based on projection of the team, based on kind of leadership, based on kind of the scholastic performance of the team and the program, and just kind of the overall direction. Usually it's anywhere between 20 and 25 individuals are sort of on this list. So this year it's 21, individuals are on this list. And of course, Lincoln Riley is on there. I'll be honest with you, Coach. I don't really think this is much of any news, to be honest with you. I don't really think this is a big deal at all. I think, if we look at how college football is structured today, the top 20 programs have 80% of the talent. So it doesn't surprise me that he's on a list with 20 other people, because USC in a down year is a top 20 program. I think we can all sort of agree that that's sort of the absolute floor of this program and this team. So to me, it's, that's sort of the baseline. I think most people that are credible and sane and rational think that Lincoln Riley's perhaps a top 10 coach in college football. And when he's really got it humming and got it going, he's a top 5 coach. So, at the end of the day, we're paying the guy $10 million a year. I mean, if he can't make a top 21 list, what are we really doing here, right? So this isn't really a big deal. And I know there's a lot that has been made about Paul Feinbaum and, him saying all of that. And I think Paul Feinbaum just has an axe to grind with Lincoln Riley, because I think Lincoln Riley, the perception is that he left a team that was going to the SEC, right? And so everyone thinks like you never leave the SEC for another conference. And I think Feinbaum just has sort of a personal axe to grind with Lincoln Riley as a result of that. He's entitled to his opinion. I don't put much stock in it because he's more of a regional guy. At the end of the day, if we give this too much attention, then we're just as bad as Paul Feinbaum. Like if he's accused of engagement farming and we come up with all these sort of eloquent articles and speeches about why Feinbaum is wrong, then we're engagement farming too. So to me, I perhaps might be in the minority here, but this is much ado about nothing. I mean, he's a $10 million a year coach. He's not on the top 21 list. I mean, were we drunk when we hired him? I mean, that's kind of the way I see it. So it's great. He's on a list, whoop-de-doo, but, it doesn't really mean anything. There's plenty of coaches that have been fired the very year that they've been on this list. There have been plenty of coaches that have moved on as well. Plenty of coaches won a national championship when they've been on this list. So much ado about nothing.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think what's more just to shift the conversation that's, interesting, whatever you want to call it. No Dan Lanning on the list. No Brent Venables on the list. So some other big name, highly touted coaches not on it. So whatever you want to make of that.
That's the scholastic piece, right? That has to do with the scholastic piece with Oregon and Oklahoma.
Okay, well there you go. If that's the case, but yeah, I don't think I need to add much more. I think it's cool. It's these all watch lists are there's a lot of players and a lot of stuff that comes out, but yeah, I think it's based on conversations and based on how last year went. It does show. I think his peers obviously still think very highly of him, so that's a good thing.
This is 2 shows in a row now. We got the JJ Redick engagement farming out of you guys. So that thing is, I do think I mean I understand what you're saying, Jamal. Like the expectations should be set high, but I do think it's a step forward, right? And it's an attainable goal. So I see it as like, all right, people are starting to recognize and they know who I am, and I understand like they should be a top 20 team. This should be a normal thing, but I don't know if he's ever been on this list. So I can't say like it's a normal thing for him, but it's starting to get some national recognition. And so I guess if academics have something to do with it, that's a plus. At least he's getting players graduated, but that's neither here nor there. That's what you're supposed to do. But but it's a, for me, like I said, I look at it as like, all right, this is the first step. Let's see if I could become a finalist. All right, I didn't become a finalist this year, but I got close, right? Now let's try to win the thing. So it's more of like, let's use it as a goal. And I prefer for him to be on it every single year because of what he's doing compared to like we're talking about it because he's on the list because he hasn't been on the list for the past 2 years, right? So I think the goal should be make the list every year, become a finalist, win the thing. So that's why I'm looking at like, all right, let's start taking a step forward. Let's move in the right direction. Let's use this as some type of motivation to become a better coach.
Yeah, no, Coach, I think you're spot on. I mean, you always want to be recognized as opposed to not recognized, right? So it's never a bad thing. It's always a good thing. But I think also at the end of the day, he's been nationally recognized for 7 or 8 years. If he wasn't nationally recognized, 2.5 years ago, USC would have never hired him in the first place, right? I mean, if he wasn't nationally recognized for several years in a row, he wouldn't be rumored to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys when he was, 3 or 4 years ago and coach America's team. So, I mean, he's been at the forefront of the sport for 7 or 8 years now. And rightfully so. I mean, he's an incredible offensive mind. So, obviously this should be the expectation, right? I mean, if we're saying only 14 teams are going to make the playoff from now until, in 2 years and moving beyond, for that foreseeable future, that means there's 7 coaches on this list that aren't going to make the playoff, right? At least. So, he should make this list every year. That's kind of the expectation. I mean, otherwise, why are you paying the guy $10 million a year?
So are you agreeing that college football is going to become college basketball? Did you just say
Well,
that?
that's a different. I think you and I both know, our answer to that question.
Are you just saying? Did you just say that? No, definitely. I understand where you're coming from. I don't know. We got to find something to get him.
No. I mean, it's always good.
You know?
I'm not saying it's a negative thing by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying let's hold off on the ticker tape parade. It's he's a guy who's 3 Heismans, 3 playoff appearances. I mean, the resume speaks for itself, particularly on the offensive side of the ball.
4 Heismans.
Is it 4?
Yeah, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield.
3.
No,
because he didn't have Manziel, coach. It was just Baker, Kyler, and Caleb.
Oh,
and then Hurts was runner up.
Cliff had Manziel.
Yeah.
My fault. I apologize. 3 Heisman.
No, but I mean, we know
Cliff
that he's a great coach. So, but I think for me as a purist, and Fred, you and I can kind of relate to this in particular. I mean, we know what this program looks like at its peak. So.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the peak of this program is not celebrating top 21 finishes in anything, whether that's on the field or in the coach or, in a coach's ranking or anything like that. So we're still a long way to go from, being back to where we need to be. It's a nice step in the right direction, but I also don't want to make this too big a deal because I think it's important that the fan base understands what the real expectations of this team are and should be.
Oh, no. I'm just saying it's in the right direction. I'm not saying we made it. We're not. We're far. We haven't even turned the corner in the first 100 meters. I'm not saying we made it. I'm just saying I'm more saying I'm justifying that this offseason compared to last offseason has been really good for Lincoln Riley. It's way better. I think it's night and day, and I think he's setting the team up to go in the right position. Now, did it work? That part I can't tell you right now, but from what he's doing this offseason is a lot better than what we saw the last offseason. That's more what I'm saying. I'm not saying we're there. I'm for sure. I'm not saying we're there yet. We got some time. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You guys got anything else on that?
Nope.
We're all good?
Yes, sir.
Moving forward, there's another list that came out. We're just full of lists, Jamal. I'm sorry. It's summer. We're almost to camp.
Let's do it.
We're almost to camp.
It.
Top 10 receiver ranking that came out according to college football sports writer Phil Steele. Right? So the top 10 list came out. Number 1 is Oregon. Number 2 is Missouri. Number 3 is Ohio State. Number 4 is Ole Miss. Number 5 is the University of Southern California. Number 6 is Oklahoma. 7, Colorado. 8, SMU. 9, Louisville. 10, Notre Dame. Now, they put him in a prime position, boy. They put him in a really, really prime position. I think this is the perfect position for them because it gives them room to grow, right? We know the ability in that room. We know the ability that each one has on the field, and we know the ability that what this receiver core can do. They have the ability to be top 3 right now. The ability. We're not saying the performance in the past, everything, the ability. But if you put them at 3 and they underperform, then it turns into the same USC story that it has been in the past decade, right? They overrated, high rankings. But I think the main reason why they're 5 is because they're really young. You know what I mean? I know they have some guys that are older, but we're talking about Makai Lemon. We're talking about Zachariah Branch, right? We're talking about Deuce Robertson. We're talking about I forgot his name. The guy you like, Jamal. Come on, help me out.
Jacoby Lane.
Jacoby Lane. There you go.
Baby.
Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane's young, right? He's only going to be a junior or sophomore.
They're all true sophomores.
Yep.
Sophomore. They're all soft. Thank you. So that's my point right there. And we got Kyle Ford back, which is so random. Which I think is super random, but it is what it is. You can't resist the Cardinal and gold. It's like a siren. It always calls you back. But this gives these young kids room to grow, right? You put them at 3 and they have a sophomore slump and it's like, oh, like I said, story of the decade, they're super overrated. It always happens. They always fail. But you put them at 5 and they jump 2 spots. Then you're like, oh, they're only juniors. And this is their prove it season. Are they going to go to the drive or they come back? They end up being the number 1 class. Perfect prime place for them to be for them to start this season. I think this group, other than Miller, no, hold on. Let me take that back. The defense has the most pressure on them. Then it's Miller Moss, and then I think it's the receiver core so they're one of the three that have the most pressure on them because of their potential, and everybody wants to see them what they could do. And like I was telling somebody the other day, I think I told you this, Ryan, or I think it was on the show. I could be wrong, but I was telling somebody the other day, football has changed, right? Me being a purist, I'll take a 10-3 game, but people think that's boring. People want to see 45-21. I think that's boring. You know what I mean? And that's why the quarterback is such predominant. Everybody wants to see the big plays. I'm not really into that. I want to see the big stop. Oh, that's a big stop. That could change the game. Oh, they need a field goal to win it. There we go. They won the game. But back to where we at.
Go yell at the clouds, coach. Go yell at the clouds.
This group has been put in a position, according to Phil Steele, for them to grow, and he put him in the perfect position. You called him a legend while I was reading off the list. It seems like he knows what he's talking about. I feel like 3 is too high for them right now, expectation-wise, but I feel 5 is perfect position. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the high. I have a lot of respect for Phil Steele. He's been around forever, making his magazines and all that. So I don't know how long he's been with CBS per se. I can't remember, but he's been around forever doing college coverage. So love Phil. I haven't seen too many other lists or rankings that have USC this high. So I feel like this was actually one of the higher ones. I know we have a lot of faith in what this room can do. And, you know, even with some of the returning guys that are a little bit older and some of the transfers in. But this is definitely, I think, the highest I've seen. And it shows that, you know, Phil still believes that this is a hugely talented room. And I mean, obviously when you just look at the stars across the board in terms of recruiting ranking, where they are stand, but then you see a little glimpse of what they're able to do in the Holiday Bowl. I know Tahj Washington was in that game as well, but obviously we saw some lightning flashes from Jacoby Lane, from Makai Lemon, from Deuce, all the above. And so when you look at the combination of size, of speed, of skill set, and also just the versatility that each one has, but also the versatility they have, but also where they're actually able to fit within the scheme. I think when you look at, you know, Deuce with the big body that can stretch the field, Makai can be your true kind of possession receiver. Jacoby can just do anything. And then, oh, guess what? Zachariah Branch might be the most talented of all, but like he's your gadget. He can come out of the backfield, can be a Swiss Army knife. And then they have some depth there with some veterans coming back as well. And, you know, in Ware-Hudson, and you mentioned Kyle Ford and a few other transfers that came over. So it's a talented room. It's an unproven room. And so that's where the really, it's hard to set the expectation, because who's going to really kind of be the leader of that room? We knew it was kind of Tahj and Brenden Rice last year. So who's going to kind of not only be the vocal leader, but that, you know, third down, got to have it. Who's the guy stepping up? But in terms of just ceiling, I mean, I think sky's the limit for this group and what they're able to do, especially in this offense. So it's good to see my guy Phil Steele. I had him way back when I started podcasting as a guest. And it was super cool to have him. So good to see him giving some respect to the Trojans receiving corps.
Before you go, Jamal, the only thing I don't like about the list, like you said, right? No, you didn't say it, but you mentioned ceiling and it clicked to me. This list gives them a very low ceiling. It gives them a low ceiling and a high floor. So if they fall, they're going to fall far. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I agree with Ryan. I mean, I think it's, you know, when you think about last year and you think that the top 2 wide receivers of this team are no longer with the team, both in the NFL, this is high praise, and it's justified high praise. So I think the 2 things that are very, I think, positive and exciting about this moving forward is A, other people are seeing what we're seeing. And number 2, that they're kind of getting the respect without actually having put together much of body of work. And you just see, you know, the raw ability, the raw speed, the raw quickness, the hands, the length. I mean, the things that you can't really teach, these guys have. So, you know, Zachariah Branch, I mean, there's flashes. I mean, there's moments where you're like, I mean, am I back to Reggie Bush? I mean, am I not? What's happening? You know, he's going to be just so special over the next 2 years. I wish we're going to have him for 3. It ain't going to happen. We got him for 2 more years. And so I think it's going to be dynamite here in 24 and 25 with Branch. And then Makai Lemon, I mean, for a guy that basically played one half of one game last year in the Holiday Bowl, and the same thing with Jacoby Lane. You know, we saw Jacoby make a couple catches in that UCLA game and then had the big-time Holiday Bowl performance. And then Deuce, I mean, frankly, last year, Deuce was known more for what he didn't catch than what he did catch. You know, so like this is very high praise for a group that hasn't really put a body of work together on the field. Having said that, I think it's spot on. This is a top 5 receiving group. just given the level of talent that they have and once they grow into their roles. So no question about it. Look, wide receiver is the last position you have to worry about with a Lincoln Riley team and a Lincoln Riley offense. So it's great to see the reloading continue to take place. But you said it, and what's fun, Coach, is that we all kind of have our favorites. Like there's a lot of fans out there that love ZB. They love Zachariah. And then you're Mr. Makai Lemon, right?
Lemon, yep.
And then I love Jacoby Lane. And so, think about how crazy and uniquely and scary good this receiving core is when we can all have our favorite guys and they all on any one given night can be wide receiver one. I mean, that's really what makes this so special. So great to see Phil Steele put USC in the top 5, deservedly so, rightfully so. Took a lot of vision to do that, and he delivered. The one thing I'll say in the ranking that kind of really surprised me, to be honest with you, is Missouri at 2. I mean, hello, Ohio State? Ohio State and Oregon, just given everything that we've seen in terms of the transfer portal and even just that lineage. I mean, the fact that Ohio State wasn't 1 on this list is, kind of makes you tilt your head. And then you're like, Ohio State wasn't even 2, like Missouri was 2. So that's the one that sort of caught me off guard more than anything else. I think SC's right where they should be, top 5 with room to grow. And I think overall, agree with the rankings basically from 1 to 10 outside of Missouri.
I will tell y'all this. So later down the line, sometime in August, if you go back to like one of the first shows that I've ever did when we started this podcast, I brought on one of my good friends who's super smart, and he talked about the Lincoln Riley offense. And so he's going to be on in August, and he's going to talk about the differences that you're going to see between Lincoln Riley calling plays with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley calling plays with Miller Moss. And it's a big difference. He's already like studying, looking at film. He said he's not ready yet. So he'll let me know when he's ready. But I said we got to do it sometime in August. So that'd be good to see because I think Miller Moss is a gunslinger. And I think he's in a gunslinger in a way of like great pocket presence. He's not going to scramble, but he's going to sit in the pocket and find the guy open. He's going to force some things. He'd be like, oh, that was a hell of a throw because he got it in that window. And that's what gives each one of these receivers a different opportunity. Like you said, like one night it might be Makai Lemon. One night it might be Jacoby Lane. One night it might be Zachariah Branch. One night it might be Kyle Ford. You know what I mean? Like it depends. And I even saw somebody in the comments say for this list on our Twitter, USC_LAFB, they said, don't forget about the tight ends, right? Because Lincoln Riley does implement the tight end. So there might be a big night for the tight end. So, and Lincoln Riley likes to do stuff out of the backfield with the backs. So this group, like you said, I'm not worried about it, but there's still it's more type of pressure. Like you're expected to perform, right? And an off night for this group is 300 yards, so that's the type of thing that I'm worried about, but it makes sense. But yeah, I think it's room to grow. Great place to be. That really makes me look at the season because we've been in the top 5 in a lot of lists with big networks. So there's a lot of expectation coming.
Coach, can I add one thing about the Miller Moss piece? Because it got me thinking while you were talking about him being kind of a gunslinger. And I actually wonder, you're not wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but I wonder if that is true. And the reason I asked that question is, is Miller Moss Jeremy Lin? And the reason I say that is you remember Linsanity in the NBA with the Knicks, famous story, right? Where he's on a 10-day contract. Agent calls him, the night before the game against the Knicks where he blows up and he says, look, dude, like this is probably your last game in a Knicks uniform. So if you get in there, just cut it loose because like this is it. And that was the night Jeremy Lin just cut it loose, went for 38 points. Linsanity was born. All of a sudden, he's playing the Lakers a few nights later against Kobe. He's getting full court pressed with D Wade and LeBron, and it sort of was born. Linsanity was born from there. And I wonder, I think he just kind of cut it loose, and then once he sort of got the bigger contract, he sort of stabilized into a certain player. And I'm not talking about like performance. I'm talking about style. And I wonder if the Holiday Bowl was Miller Moss's Jeremy Lin moment, where it's like, look, Caleb, just declared for the NFL. There's all this talk about Will Howard. There's all this talk about all these other guys that Lincoln's traveling to these places to get his next quarterback. Like, you got your one shot, to show that you belong and you're part of the consciousness of the USC ecosystem and the Trojan family and the community, and make it credible for Lincoln Riley for you to be the guy. And he sort of cut it loose, right? And so you wonder, is he going to have that same mentality now going into 2024? Because he is the man. He's QB1. He's the leader of this team based on this performance. And does he sort of cut it loose the same way? Or now he sort of calms and settles and is more of a polished passer, perhaps, more of a leader, maybe a little bit more or less risk averse? Does his style change because it's not as desperate anymore? And it's a question. I wonder, was the Holiday Bowl for Miller Moss his Jeremy Lin moment, his springboard to stardom? But then now that he is a bona fide star in USC land, does his style actually change, and does he stay a gunslinger?
I think he does, because I don't think everything's done left to be proven. Right. And I think the fact of, like, we're back, that still needs to be proven. We're a top 5-3. We're a national championship contender. That needs to be proven. I want to put number 7 on the concrete bleachers. That needs to be proven. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go to the NFL. That needs to be proven. Like, there's so much on the list that needs to be proven, in my opinion, that, like, he's got to let it fly all 12 of these games this year, or he'll be back, and next year we'll be talking about, where do we really go from here? You know what I mean? So, like, I think he still has a lot to check off on his list. I know some of them more long-term goals, like Heisman stuff and NFL. That's at the bottom of the list for the goals. But, like, are we a competitive team? He needs to check that off. Or can I be recognized nationally? He needs to check that off. Like, is this my team? If this team goes bad, I'm the bad leader. He needs to check that off. So I think he still has a lot to prove on his list. And that one night was hopefully just the very top of the iceberg. And there's much more up underwater that we still need to see. So that's where, you guys got anything on that one? Was that a good rebuttal? That was one of my best rebuttals, Jamal. I just want to let you know that. That's one of the best ones.
Top notch.
Well,
first class. A1.
Well done.
You guys got anything left for the receivers list before we move on? Continue to talk about receivers, but we're going to the recruiting world.
Yeah, bring us there.
All right, so it's kind of been floating around since it's been about 2 days. I saw it 2 days ago, and I didn't. That's our guest host. Been about 2 days, and I didn't know if it was true. I saw it yesterday, and it said it was from On3, and today it's like buzzing. So Tahj Hines, a 2025 receiver out of Texas, he goes to, I just saw that school, Decaney High School in Texas. They're saying he was 93, 92%, Ryan, SC.
Something like that, yeah.
The crystal ball that On3 or 24/7 has, I don't know where they get this crystal ball from, but this crystal ball that they have,
from the wizard school.
I guess so. They got it from Hermione. Hermione's
amen.
Like one of the best wizards.
The wand picks the wizard. The wizard doesn't pick the wand. Okay,
that's true. That's true. This is a great get. This is a great steal, and USC needs to do everything in their power to get this kid to come to this school. This is a true freshman starter right now with this group. This kid looks bigger than his measurements say. This kid looks faster than he runs. This kid can run very good routes, has very good hands, and he looks stronger than it is. The crazy thing about him is he looks small. His sophomore season, it looks like he went through a growth spurt and got bigger and just became a Blazer. He is a upgraded Brenden Rice, per se. I would say that. Like, he's running double move routes in high school and getting wide open. This is a very, very good receiver. SC knows what they have to do. They know everything they have to avoid to get this kid. We need to get this kid on campus. It's always going to be the problem now. We understand that. The problem now is that we have to keep him, right? And this is a loaded room. How do we keep him? How do we make sure we keep him? We'll worry about that during the season. Let's just get him there for next fall. Like, this is a kid that we can't miss on. If he commits, we have to stay on to him and make sure he stays. And like I said, they know everything they need to avoid. They know everything they need to do to get this kid. Tahj Hines coming to USC. You remember how I always say, I told both of you before, hey, we're one player away. You're that one player. This is that one player. Him and Zachariah Branch returning kicks. That's scary. Off top, that's scary, right? Him on the field with the likes of Jacoby Lane, Makai Lemon, Zachariah Branch. That's scary. Deuce Robinson. That's scary. We're one player better, and we're getting better and better and better. We need to get this kid here. Let's go to the recruiting expert, Ryan. What do you think about Tahj Hines?
I don't know about recruiting expert, but no, I mean, yeah, he's announcing July 15th. So on Monday, making his announcement, as you mentioned, SC the leader per on 3 with Texas and Notre Dame in there as well. So unless something drastic happens, which we've seen happen between now and then, it seems like it feels pretty confident he'll be, at least for now, coming to SC. But this would bring 3 receivers in this recruiting class with Romario Eisen and Corey Sims. And I think aside from just everything you said about how good he can be, I think it's a nice, if you want to call it, flavor profile between the 3 different receivers. I think they bring both 3 different skill sets. You look at Corey Sims as like, a bigger body, not huge, but, a bigger guy. Eisen's a smaller, twitchier guy. And this is kind of a middle of the road, but then just like burning speed. So it'd be a great get. Brings you 3 to the class. Wouldn't expect them to add more after that, and lets them focus on just retaining those 3 and making sure they're signing on signing day in December. But yeah, Tahj Hines, I mean, I think it'd be a home run get and one that they absolutely should make sure, happens, which looks like as of now on Thursday, July 11th, looks pretty good. We'll see on the 15th.
Jamal, before you go, this solves your biggest problem that you always say USC's receivers have. This guy can separate.
Absolutely. Separation Hines. Maybe we get a little Hines catch-up NIL deal going.
There we go.
But no, I think Ryan said it really well, and I love sort of Ryan's tone too. He's like, "Hey, July 11th, we feel pretty good. We'll see what July 15th brings, because 4 days in recruiting land these days is like dog years, and I think that's what sort of Ryan's alluding to. But Tahj Hines, obviously Decaney High School from Houston, Texas, 6'1", 185. That's sort of that prototypical build. I think if you ask Lincoln Riley, based on sort of his different variations of the air raid, what's the prototypical receiver in your system? It would probably be somebody 6'1", 6'2", 185, 190 with burning speed. So in that regard, Tahj Hines is just like the prototypical Lincoln Riley version air raid wide receiver. So absolutely burner, great hands. I think there's sort of a sophistication to his route tree as well in high school that you just don't see every day. Would be an absolutely great get. Ryan mentioned on 3, USC's in the lead. 247 Sports has it as a 50-50 coin toss between USC and Notre Dame. So not only would it be a great get to kind of complete that trilogy of wide receivers in the class of 2025, as Ryan said, that complement each other really well, but at least according to 247 Sports, to get one over the arch rival Notre Dame and pull that one in would be even sweeter. So should be a fun day on July 15th. Hopefully it's that Trojan hat standing last and, on his beautiful scalp. I mean, what a salad that kid's got in terms of hair too. I mean, I think forget anything else, guys. I think he's the heir apparent to Troy Polamalu with all the Head and Shoulders commercials. That's what I would be angling for,
So just a little tidbit. As a junior, he ran a 10.4 500 and he ran a 20.71 200 meter as a junior. This kid could fly. I just sent it to a couple buddies I used to coach with. I sent it to all of them before we started. They all said the same thing. There's like 2 to 3 steps per 5 yards, but it doesn't look like it. He's so smooth, man. That's scary good. Like,
we're starting to get into Candace territory a little bit there, Coach.
Yeah. we just can't let the Tahj issue happen. That's all that matters. We had Tahj. He got away. Let's learn from our mistakes. We got another one here. Let's get him in the Cardinal and Gold. Let's keep him happy all season, and let's get him in there. August 2026, we should be talking about what Tahj Haynes. We got to figure out T. Haynes. Tahj sounds like a fish, but it does.
That's a great name.
But
got to run the hook, the Tahj and ladder.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
there it is.
You know that's happening. I mean, there's going to be a happening. And then we got to take this clip and say, you know what? It was July 11, 2024, and Ryan is the one who coined it. So before anyone steals credit.
So maybe it does stay. We got to get our boy Julian Lewis. We got to get the top recruiter for the 2025 class talking to him. That's the guy right there. That's the top recruiter. He's going to win the Big Ten Recruiter of the Year because that dude's putting in work. That dude's putting in a bunch of work. Definitely. You guys got anything else on Chinook?
No. Well, it'll be perfect because we'll record on Monday and we'll have the announcement by then most likely. So
yeah,
we'll see if it's positive or negative.
So before we sign off, I want to touch on two things. Two fun facts. This weekend, well, one of them is fun, one of them is serious. This weekend, there's a media day happening actually tomorrow night. And I can't believe this media day is happening tomorrow night. And we should have went just for shits and giggles. Guess what the media day is?
Well, I have no clue.
Just throw a conference out that should not be having a media day.
Pickleball?
Mountain West?
No.
Oh, the Pac-12. There's
a Pac-12. There's a Pac-12 media day.
Yeah.
Happening this weekend.
Is that real or is it a joke?
Yes, that's a real thing.
Oh my god,
that's a real thing. So, like, I listen. I don't know why I'm hooked on the show. So, not Petra. Well, I listen to Petra Papadakis show too. But in the morning on Wednesdays, Petros comes on that show, and it's LeVar Arrington, Jonas Knox, and Brady Quinn.
Man, Coach got that man crush on LeVar Arrington, man. Loving tough on LeVar. I mean,
it's because I listen to him in the morning driving to work. It's called Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. And Petro Papadakis comes on Wednesday morning, and he's like, "Yeah, I legit have to go to the Pac-12 media day and have drinks with the commissioner and with Trip Bray and Dickel. Like, I cannot believe Dickert's his name. And I'm like, I cannot believe that this is happening, but I have to do it, and it's going to be so much fun. And we get to ask two guys the hard questions, and we're going to ask who's going to win the conference, and is it best of 7? I can't believe that's happening. So there's a Pac-12 media day.
Is it just because they still have money they need to spend? Or
I don't know. I didn't even know there was still a conference, but I guess it's still a conference. It's legit still a conference.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's weird because they've got the naming rights now. They remember they won that lawsuit. So, I mean, I guess they're just kind of like, hey, we might as well have something versus not have anything, you know? I mean, they're just, at that point, I would almost do like an Oregon State media day and then a Washington State media day, and you just sort of do it on your campus. But I guess also with those two schools, it's hard to get to those campuses. So you need some common location anyway. So might as well kind of team up. Yeah.
It's not hard. It's easier. It's not that hard to get to Oregon State. You just fly to Eugene and make the left.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of multiple. It's multiple legs, Coach. It's not. It's not like flying to Seattle or something. Or Boulder.
And Eugene's not a cheap airport to fly.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going for media day, you can afford it. Now going to Washington State, driving through the Palouse, that's a little bit different because it just pops up on you. But I just couldn't believe that. That's crazy. Another thing, and I sent it to you guys earlier, just a little tidbit for us. I can't believe that Clemson and Florida State took the easy route. I for sure thought they were going to the SEC. I for sure thought they were going to be another fish in the ocean, but they decided to be a big fish in a small pond. I am so disappointed in that decision. I don't know how true it is, but if that is true, that is 100% disappointing in the president of those universities. And nobody can ever say anything else about Lincoln Riley being scared of the SEC, where you got two schools in your backyard and they choose to go to the Big 12. I'm going to leave it on that one. I think that's funny. That's hilariously funny to me. But other reasons, I wish we had a whole show about college football other than this. I think Dabo is so anti-NIL. The Big 12 is the only place they could compete.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, it seems close. Nothing is quite confirmed just yet, but it seems like it's getting closer. So we'll keep an eye on it. And it feels like it's Clemson, Florida State, and some of the reports are like it's not just going to be those two. There's potentially 2 more teams, potentially 4 more teams that are going to be going to the Big 12. And I think to kind of bring it a little bit closer to home, Coach, on the West Coast, think about if you're Calen Stanford, huh? You just got sort of left behind. you're sort of, you're sort of orphaned from the Pac-12. You're like, okay, we got the lifeline for the ACC, and now the ACC might dissolve by the end of the week, and so you're back to kind of being an independent. Who knows? Calen Stanford might go back to the Pac-2, make it Pac-4. You get a few, you get Pac-6. It's stranger
or maybe
things have happened.
Or they'll just go to the Big 12 just because they meet the academic standard.
They could.
But
or they just come back. They take that Apple streaming deal. Cal Stanford come back to the Pac-12 with Oregon State, Washington State. You pull a couple Mountain West. You got a Pac-6. You got a six-pack.
There you go.
You got the Tanukin ladder against the six-pack team. That's what's going to happen.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
Ryan's like,
I would assume one of the teams is Miami. I can't see Miami. Well, who knows? But I would think Miami and Florida State will go to the same. But
this Miami is USC of the West, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Miami is USC of the West, and maybe a lot of people do know that, but they got to get their NIL stuff together because they got a big donor that's like Phil Knight, but he's kind of, I don't know. It gets weird once you get in trouble. It starts to get weird. I sometimes wish we never got in trouble because I wonder what
only sometimes, huh?
Yeah. Because I just wonder what it be. I just wonder what it'd be like. I just think they never pull the trigger all the way because it's like, we don't want to face that scrutiny again. Like compared to other schools, it's just like, let's just do it. Like Ryan, you legit called it 24 hours before. Said Phil Knight wants to see a championship before he dies, and he says, "All right, here's the unlimited NIL." It'll never work. He'll never see a championship before he dies because Oregon is like the most. What did I say they are? They're like what did I say?
I love this. It's so deep. The hatred for Oregon is so deep. I mean, it's that brotherly love, man.
Yeah, that's all.
That's what it is. It's because it's unbelievable.
They're like overachieving losers.
Man. You would fight on Rusty, bro. I mean, it's like, so deep.
It's crazy.
There's something has happened.
I'm sorry, Phil. And I'm a big Nike supporter. I love Nike wearing Nike stuff, but I'm sorry. He did. My brother actually said Phil needs to put the money back in Nike and go back to Nike because their stock is just crashing right now.
They just fired like 30 execs, didn't they?
Yeah. So Phil,
because of NIL,
retail is not an easy game even now.
Yeah. So definitely, no, good deal. So,
and Coach, last thing I'll say before we sign off, just on a slightly somber note, but one-time Trojan defensive coordinator, legend of the game, Monty Kiffin, passes away today at the age of 84.
Really? I didn't know that. We would have led with that.
Yeah, the architect of the Tampa 2 offense, of course, and the legendary father of Lane Kiffin. Obviously what a great personality Lane was and Monty was. So just want to offer my thoughts and prayers and condolences to the Kiffin family. As we always say, once a Trojan, always a Trojan, Trojan for life. And so on behalf of the Trojan family, thoughts and prayers to the Kiffin family for a great man, a great legend of the game, Monty Kiffin.
I didn't know.
At 84.
I didn't know Monty Kiffin died. I'm sorry, so we can't sign off quite yet because I have a Monty Kiffin story. Freshman year, first time us there throwing 7-on-7, and at that time, no coaches could be there, and there's just this old man just walking around telling everybody what to do. Ray Maluga, Dallas Starks, Keith Rivers, like NFL guys. What to do. You guys know them as NFL guys. They were just sophomores then, and Dallas started like telling them what to do. And I'm like, who is this dude? Like, who is he? Like, I just never knew who he was. And like my good friend right now, Mike Morgan, like we're talking to each other, like, who is this guy? So coming to find out, like years later, it was like, that was Monty. That was legit Monty Kiffin there. Like Monty Kiffin runs so deep. His wife used to babysit, I think, Pete Carroll's kids, and like way back in Arkansas, like their relationship is so deep, and like he's like one of the most influential people in football, like the Tampa 2, like you said, like won him a Super Bowl. He didn't win a Super Bowl, but that defense won the Bucs eventually a Super Bowl. Influential to Pete. Like if Pete was coaching, he's like, I never missed practice. He missed practice for Bill Walsh's funeral. He's definitely going to be there. That's crazy. Rest in peace, Monty. Rest in peace, Kiffin family. Man, I didn't even know that. How did that not come across my phone? But it is what it is. That was a legend. That like I'm honored. I'm honored to know somebody like that, like Monty Kiffin. Not know him personally, but like I'm honored to have been in the same presence with him at the same time. All right, we can end now. Definitely. All right. And we're going to end on that note. That's the perfect note to end on. That's the perfect note to end on. Fans, thank you, Ryan, Jamal. Another one in the books. We put it together. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time, you guys know how it goes. Live free, fight on.